Welcome back to Ashes to Aligned. Whether you're a mom, wife, sister, daughter, or close friend trying to rebuild after codependency, emotional burnout, or years of walking on eggshells, please know you're no longer alone and you don't have to keep carrying it all. This is a space where we talk about what it really means to let go, to set boundaries without guilt, and to take back your peace. One brave, unglamorous, but soul expanding step at a time. In the last episode, we talked about how addiction doesn't just affect the person struggling, it spreads like the flu throughout the entire household. And before we know it, we're all sick mentally, emotionally, and sometimes physically. Today, we're staying with that theme, but bringing in a little humor because, well, sometimes we need to laugh to keep from crying. You will quickly learn I love metaphors and analogies. It's not just because it's a creative thing, it's a strategy. Because our brains think in pictures, and when we can picture something in a different, less personal, less painful way, it helps us create just enough space for change. So let's try this one on for size. I need to lose weight. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you don't have to imagine it. You can see for yourself, and I need to lose a lot of it. But now here's the question. What are you going to do to help me lose weight? Are you going to jump online and start researching weight loss boot camps to send me to? When I come back, will you have a gym lined up for me? A list of trainers? A 12-step carb recovery plan? Hopefully, you're seeing the picture I'm painting. The boot camp is rehab, the gym is meetings, the trainer is a sponsor, and it would be ridiculous for you to be in charge of managing my weight loss. And yes, that's exactly what we do when we're trying to manage someone else's recovery. And let me tell you, trying to manage my chip and cookie intake would be exhausting for you. And it probably wouldn't end well for either of us. Food is my drug of choice, especially when I'm sad or angry or stressed or just too tired to care. I know sugar gives me panic attacks. I know carbs make me feel sluggish and overwhelmed. But I also know there is no way in hell I'm giving those things up just because someone else decided I should. In fact, because of my personality adaptation, I'm what's called a playful resistor. If someone tells me this is what you need to do, I'll double down and destroy 2 bags of chips just to prove I can. And the decision to eat better and make healthier lifestyle choices has to come from me. So if you've been working overtime trying to get someone else clean or sober, maybe this analogy helps you step back and see it a little more clearly. My oldest son once had a counselor say something in rehab that really stuck with me. He asked how many, they were in a group meeting, and he asked, how many of you are here for back problems? And everyone looked around the room like, what? And then he said, well, most of you are probably here to get someone off your back, your mom, your wife, your boss, your friend. You're not here because you want to be. You're here because they want you to be. Now, my sons and I have talked about this a lot, and there is some disagreement between them on the effectiveness of forcing someone to go to rehab. Again, none of us are therapists. This is just opinions based on their personal experience from the dozens and dozens of times they went to rehab. My youngest says it'll never work if someone isn't ready to go. My oldest agrees if someone has already been to rehab once. But he feels like if someone has never been, the most important thing is to get them in the door the first time, whether it be through an intervention or whatever means. He says they may not even realize that getting clean is a possibility for them, and that going that first time will expose them to a lot of information that could help. He also says it will basically ruin using for them because there's nothing worse than using when you have a head full of knowledge. But either way, they do agree if the person doesn't want it, it won't stick. But let's go back to my weight loss analogy. And let's say I do go to boot camp for 2 weeks and then I come home. Would it make sense for you to try and manage my every move and track all of my activities to make sure I don't lose ground? I tell you, I found a gym. I'm going 3 days a week and I've got a trainer. Would you feel like you had to drive me to the gym to make sure I actually go? When I lived in San Diego, the gym I attended had this lounge area. It had a bunch of chairs. I mean, big, comfy, sink into chairs and TVs all up on the wall. And there were always people slumped in those chairs, watching a movie or watching the news, sipping on a smoothie. And I was like, why are they here? Like, why do they go to the gym to watch TV or drink a smoothie? I'm guessing they probably went because of back problems. They weren't as invested in their health as someone else was. So they conceded and they went to the gym to keep the peace at home because they weren't actually putting in the work. But back to my analogy. Let's say you trust me enough to drive myself to the gym. Are you going to feel the compulsion to track me on Find Friends to make sure I'm not taking a detour to the donut shop on my way to the gym? Because trust me, I know where all of them are. And I know tricks for getting to them you can't even imagine. I've literally seen a drug deal go down at a red light. It can get wild out there. In the last episode, I talked about a wife or a mom being able to teach the CIA a thing or two about surveillance. But no matter how good we get at it, we're still always going to be a step or two behind our person. They are always more determined, more conniving, and just plain more motivated to stay a step ahead of us. And if they are determined to get their donut or their bag of chips or their pint of ice cream, they are going to get it no matter how hard we work at getting them healthy. Jim Rohn said, you can't hire someone else to do your push-ups for you. You also can't volunteer to do someone else's push-ups for them and it work. You can do 1,000,000 push-ups and it won't have any effect. I used to say that if I could walk 5 miles a day and it would help my husband, I would gladly walk every single day without fail. I'd be unstoppable, like the Postal Service used to claim to be. No matter how hot or cold, it wouldn't have mattered if it was storming or sleeting or snowing or hurricaning, I would have been walking. But there was nothing I could do. And I guess I've touched on this, I guess, but not really explained in depth. So if you don't know me personally, you probably don't know that my husband battled a brain tumor for almost 9 years. At one point, I was a full-time caregiver for him and dealing with two sons in active addiction. And it was easy for me to understand that I couldn't walk or eat better or sleep better or do anything to, quote, fix my husband. But I struggled to grasp that the same concept applied to my sons. My husband's illness was physical. It was a visible thing I could see on an MRI. So that made sense to me. But my son's illness was this shadowy thing in their minds. And because it was this abstract thing, I kept thinking there had to be some way for me to influence it. But that influence has to come from inside them, not from an outside source. And because of the seriousness of all of their situations, I lived under constant stress and self-induced pressure to save everyone. I actually told my husband one day, on any given day, I could lose all three of you. Because if the boys are using together and they get some bad shit, we could lose both of them at the same time. And even though we never discussed it, we knew my husband's tumor was a time bomb. We just never knew when it would go off. So after he passed away in 2016, my obsession with keeping my sons alive became even more unhealthy. I pushed harder and harder at the rehab thing. And as the revolving door of detox and rehab and sober livings spun faster and faster, so did my crazy making, as I call it. Because when they went to rehab, I felt better. I was happy. I was hopeful. I knew where they were. I knew they were safe. I could finally get a decent night's sleep. And then after a few days, if I got lucky, they'd make it a week, they'd leave again. And then I'd crash again. Every time they went to rehab, I felt better, which made me even more desperate for them to stay because I didn't want to have to go back to feeling the way I felt when they were using. I was putting my happiness, my entire well being, into the hands of two madmen. That's how I described it at the time. In reality, they were two young men with their own struggles who should have never been made to feel responsible for my happiness in the first place. I kept placing my well being in the hands of people who were not okay. That's not love, that's codependency, and they weren't the problem. I was just as sick as they were, only in a different way. So here it is. You cannot feel better by controlling their healing. Their recovery is not your recovery. And their sobriety doesn't equal your peace. Your peace starts with you. And I get it. You're exhausted. You're scared. You're out of ideas. You've loved hard. You've sacrificed. You've cried into your pillow with Google open, searching for anything that might help. But maybe, just maybe, the breakthrough comes when you choose to shift, even a little. This isn't abandonment. It's not giving up. It's just remembering that you matter too. And it starts by picking up the metaphorical gym bag and focusing on your own workout. That workout isn't about abs or shakes. It's about boundaries, nervous system regulation, releasing that hypervigilance, and replacing obsession with practices that feed you. Small steps, small wins that slowly rebuild the woman who got buried under the chaos. If this episode made you laugh or cringe or both, that's good. That means something in you is waking up. That's not weakness, that's strength. So if you're here nodding along, smiling through the pain, or wiping away a tear you didn't see coming, please stay with me because these are conversations that bring us back to ourselves. Make sure you're subscribed to Ashes to Aligned, where we unhook from their recovery and finally focus on our own. Until next time, be kind to yourself. Your life matters too.